Right guys, today we are in Yeovil and we are at the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm Museum. Opened up in 1964, boasts 4 hangars with multiple aircraft, fixed wing, helicopters, and just details naval aviation at its finest from the Royal Navy. Let's get inside and check it out. So I'm currently stood under the Concorde 002, which was the second prototype actually made by a coalition between the French and the British. This Concorde was actually the main prototype that would pave the way for the 16 aircraft that actually went on to fly for British Airways and Air France. First taken airborne in 1969, it then finally came over to the Fleet Air Museum in 1976 after completing testing. It's really a gem every time you get to see a Concorde, whether it's a prototype or whether it's a full-fledged Concorde that actually went into service. But seeing the prototypes and seeing how they're actually, what they were like before they actually went into service was really, really good. This particular one, the 002, here you have to board it from the rear, which is cool, which I've never done before. So let's get on board. Still amazes me every time I get on a Concorde just how tight and actually small the fuselage actually is. If you ever get a chance to get onto one of the prototypes, definitely do, because you definitely get to see the aircraft stripped back and actually get to see all of its kind of testing equipment that they used. So when you move it to the front of the aircraft is where you actually see all your engineers seating and all the testing equipment that they might have used just to help get this aircraft to where it needs to be at 1,300 miles per hour. Hangar 4 consists of multiple planes and helicopters. We've got a Westland Sea King, you've also got multiple Harriers, which is my favourite. my all-time favourites. I think it's why I love the F-35 so much, maybe because it is a VTOL, but there's just something about them, and I just love. You've also got a Ferry Delta 2 in here, which is bigger than I thought it would be. All just dwarfed by the big Concorde 002, which looks smaller than those actually went into service, I must say. Maybe it's just because the room's a bit smaller. I'm now about to enter Hall 3, which is the carrier hall. So it's actually been mocked up to feel like you're an aircraft carrier from the 1970s. And you enter that hall in a pretty unique way. Let me show you. Say that's the first time I've ever entered into a museum hangar through a Western Wessex, which was unreal, cool. As you can see, the mock-up flight deck here is massive, and it is actually made to feel and sound like you would what it will be like. Although aircraft carriers, you think that's a tight space, when you're actually here, if this is actually true to size, it's enormous. Quite loud on here, which I'm assuming is what it would have been like in real life. It's a wicked little setup of just what it would be like to be on the airstrip of a carrier. So you've got your mock aircraft carrier to the side, and you've got loads of different aircraft that would have been on through the years, that would actually worked and actually been in service on this aircraft carrier. So you have a good variety of aircraft actually in this exhibition. So you have a Sea Harrier, you've got a Phantom, and you actually have a Blackburn Buccaneer, which is pretty cool. Not actually seen one of those properly before, so it's good to see. Not to mention the old Western Wessex, which is actually used as a front door to this exhibition, which is probably one of the coolest things I've seen. it is mocked up to look like a 1970s carrier, where you can go through what would have been the ops room, what would have been the flight deck, what would have been the navigation room. There was just so much to see.
Hello. This was the driving seat. You might expect to find the captain up here, but he spent as much time down in the operations room as you've already seen. Instead, the immediate responsibility for the ship's safety sat with the officer of the watch. He would normally work a 4-hour watch and then...
So hall number 2 takes you back through the years with some more dated aircraft for the early 1900s to late to mid 1900s. You also get a great view of the actual Royal Navy base here and their tarmac. And actually where they keep, at the minute, there's just a couple of Wildcats and a couple of training aircraft, but years and years ago this would have been full of Harriers, Westland, and it would have been flourishing when it needed to. Mainly prioritises and showcases helicopters from over the years, from different wars, from the Falklands to the Cold War, to actually just showcasing rescue helicopters that the Royal Navy used, like the Sea King. You also have a few Westland Wessex on hand as well to have a look at, and also as you progress then through the Hull 1, you actually see some really old school aircraft from, you know, the early days of aviation, you know, when planes were still made from wood, and they were really just, at the time, they were feats of engineering, and who'd have thought they would have became what they became today. Fleet Air Museum, definitely worth checking out if you're in the area. Again, boasting 4 halls. You've got prototype Concords, prototype Harriers. You've got everything from a makeshift aircraft carrier from the period of say the 70s through to the 80s, maybe earlier, maybe later. And it actually gives you that as close as a civilian's going to get to being an aircraft carrier itself, with the noise and the actual aircraft that would have been on the ship at that time period.